In a family consumed by jealousy, the most dangerous enemies are often the ones sitting across the dinner table. This was the world of young Yusuf. He described a dream to his father, Jacob, 11 stars, along with the sun and the moon, all bowing down to him. Jacob immediately recognized the weight of this vision and warned his son to keep it secret. But the secret didn't stop the resentment. Yusuf's 10 older brothers watched as their father gave his deepest affection to Yusuf and his younger brother Binyamin, and that perceived favoritism slowly turned into hatred. The brothers eventually reached a cold consensus. They concluded that as long as Yusuf remained, their father's heart would be close to them. They decided he had to be cast out or killed. They believed that by destroying the boy, they could destroy the prophecy. But in reality, their attempt to bury Yusuf's future was the exact event that set it in motion. After luring Yusuf away on the pretense of a trip, the brothers beat him and dropped him into the darkness of a desolate well. They returned home with Yusuf's shirt, which they had stained with blood. They presented it to Jacob, claiming a wolf had intercepted the boy and devoured him. Jacob looked at the shirt and saw the lie. The fabric was soaked in blood, but it wasn't torn. A wolf doesn't kill without leaving shreds. Despite the evidence of their betrayal, he chose Sabr Jamil, a patient, beautiful restraint, over an immediate path of vengeance. That patience was a heavy burden. Jacob wept for his son for 40 years, his grief eventually causing his eyes to cloud over until he lost his sight entirely. This first shirt became the symbol of a fractured household, a blood-stained deception that blinded a father and broke a family. Yusuf didn't die in the well. A passing caravan pulled him up and transported him across the desert, where he was sold in Egypt. He rose within the household of the Aziz, the king's minister. As he grew, Yusuf became known as much for his physical beauty as he was for his consistent honesty and discipline. His character faced a test when the Aziz's wife tried to corner him in the palace. As Yusuf fled from her, she grabbed him from behind, ripping his garment. When they stood before the minister, the tear in the shirt told the story. A man being attacked from the front is torn at the chest. A man fleeing for his life is torn at the back. Even with the evidence on his side, the Egyptian nobility swept the scandal under the rug. To protect their reputation, they sent Yusuf to prison. Yusuf accepted the cell without complaint. He preferred confinement to the moral corruption of the palace. While in prison, Yusuf's ability to interpret dreams became his defining trait. Eventually, that reputation reached the ears of the king, who was being haunted by a vision no one could explain. The king saw 7 fat cows being consumed by 7 thin ones, and 7 green ears of grain being choked by 7 dry ones. Yusuf explained the warning. Egypt would see 7 years of abundance, followed by 7 years of total famine. He proposed a massive storage operation, keep surplus grain in its husks during the boom years, creating a reserve to bridge the deficit. The king saw that Yusuf possessed an insight his own advisors lacked. He immediately pulled him from prison and placed him in charge of the royal treasuries and the nation's resources. The boy who was once discarded in a well had become the only person capable of saving the entire region from starvation. When the famine hit, Yusuf's brothers arrived in Egypt looking for food. They stood directly before the brother they had betrayed, but they saw only a powerful Egyptian minister they didn't recognize. Yusuf gave them grain, but he demanded they return with their youngest brother, Binyamin, to prove they weren't spies. When they returned with Binyamin, Yusuf staged one final test. He hid a royal cup in Binyamin's bags and accused him of theft. He wanted to see if the brothers would abandon Binyamin the same way they had abandoned him. But the brothers had changed. Instead of leaving Binyamin behind, they begged the minister to take them as slaves in his place. They refused to break their father's heart again. The men standing in that court were no longer the jealous conspirators of the past. They had finally passed the test. Seeing their transformation, Yusuf could no longer keep the secret. He revealed his true identity to his stunned brothers. Yusuf now commanded the wealth and the guards of Egypt. He had every means to exact revenge, yet he looked at his brothers and declared there would be no blame on them that day. He then gave them a second shirt, his own garment. He told them to take it back to Palestine and place it over their father's face. The moment the fabric touched Jacob's face, his sight returned. The years of weeping and darkness were over. The family relocated to Egypt and stood before Yusuf in his royal court. As they bowed before him, the dream of the stars, the sun, and the moon was finally fulfilled. The blood-stained shirt of deception had been replaced by a shirt of healing, marking the completion of a quiet march toward destiny.